Welcome to Pride and Promotion, the podcast that celebrates every color under the rainbow and dives deep into the heart of marketing, exploring how innovation and diversity can drive business growth. I'm Joe Federico, your host on this exciting journey and owner of J. Federico Marketing. Every week, we reveal the magic behind effective brand storytelling and examine how inclusive marketing can transform your business landscape. So get ready, because this episode is packed with insights you won't want to miss. Hey folks, how are you? I am Joe Federico. You know this by now, your host of the Pride and Promotion podcast. I have a very special guest on for spooky season, Dylan Fergus, the actor and writer and producer. He was in All My Children. He was in Passions, which we're definitely going to get into, and my favorite queer horror movie, Hellbent. Dylan, thank you so much for joining. How are you today?
Very good. Thank you for having me.
Of course, as I said, in the green room, this is a dream come true. We are literally obsessed with, your acting and your career, and you're a beacon for our community. So thank you so much for joining.
Of course. Yeah. This is going to be a lot of fun. I'm really excited to be here.
Absolutely. So please tell the audience out there, everybody in TV land, La La Land, and social media, just a little bit more about you, and then we'll dig right in.
You pretty much covered it. I'm an actor, a producer as well. I direct a lot, and I do some writing as well. But mostly a vast majority of what I do is acting, producing, and directing. And that's kind of a lot of independent stuff, and of course the soap operas. Working on a new one right now, actually, and then a lot in the advertising space too. A lot of commercials and branded content and stuff like that. We had basic storyteller, filmmaker kind of guy.
Which is amazing. And again, you've been following your career. I want to start off with a little bit of a twist, as I had promised you. I wasn't going to say what it was, but
let's go.
Like kind of tricks and treats. Here's kind of like a treat for me, a trick for you.
Okay.
You were originally on Twitter years ago, right? Kind of few and far between with your postings.
Yeah.
So what was the evolution of getting on LinkedIn and Facebook and Instagram? Like, when did that happen?
Yeah, I was late to all that stuff because, when I started on All My Children, I think it was 2002. And at that time, it was like something, which is, when you look back at it, it's such nonsense. But at the time, it was kind of like one of those things where it was like, oh, you're not supposed to do that for yourself. Like it was looked down on if you did it for yourself, and someone else should do it for you, and so I was just kind of like, whatever, I'll let other people deal with posting stuff and whatnot. And so I didn't really jump on the bandwagon for a while. And then I think it wasn't for a few years until I was like, oh, this is kind of fun. Let's get out here and stuff. And then I started using Twitter mostly for like just posting cool things, like if I came across something cool, I would retweet it, or I'd post a link to a cool video or something like that. And that's kind of what I used it for a majority wise, until I worked with a distribution company for a while, and they were pretty heavy on Twitter and stuff like that. And then kind of Facebook the same. And then Facebook became, really a family thing. And then I would bring in like, find fans and stuff like that. And then interestingly, what would happen is fans would then, like, they would just kind of be folded in with the family and the friends. And then now, I was just thinking about this the other day. It was like, now there's people that I think I met originally who were like a fan of Hellbent or a fan of, Passions or something. And now if I don't hear from them for 6 months, I'm like, where are you? What's going on, man? Are you okay? So
like, are you still alive, breathing? Are you posting? What's going on? What's happening?
Yeah, exactly. It's interesting because it's really more of almost more of a two-way street,
Sure.
You get really invested in your community as well, So wait, sorry, that might not have answered the question. How did I get?
No. Yes, it did.
Okay. Yeah.
Because, as I had said again in the, over email, and thank you so much for your time and your compassion, and for, being, as I know members of the community feel that you're a beacon because of Hellbent, which we're going to get into in your other projects. But 2004, that film came out.
Yeah.
And I think I came across it maybe through, I think the library had it, of all places.
Oh, nice.
And in like 2006. And we're like, this is the go-to Halloween movie, because there's not a lot of queer representation in horror movies.
Yeah.
And I know that this was unique. And please, if I'm incorrect, please, correct me,
No.
but not all the actors were on, part of the community, but all the musical acts were. Is that correct?
It sounds familiar. I'm the last person to fact check something. So,
No, 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 please.
it sounds, and the producing team and the director and and the company, like a lot of it was definitely a film that came from the community without a doubt.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think that, it's kind of weird and appalling maybe to say, but 20 years ago, it was a little bit different for gay actors in Hollywood than it is now.
Mhm.
And so I think at that time it was like, now if you did this, it would be very surprising that, a vast majority of the lead actors were not from the community. You know what I mean? Like
Sure,
now, if
sure.
that happened, people would be up in arms, understandably. I think back
Yeah.
then it was more understandable that the opposite was happening, which speaks a lot to kind of how far Hollywood's come in 20 years.
Sure.
Yeah.
But you
I,
all
I would
were. Go ahead. Go ahead.
No, I would just say it's definitely a film that I think is from the community as well, not just for the community.
And you can tell that because it was quite believable. Not only your acting, which was superb, with your lead man, in the movie, but you were so compassionate again. It was believable. It was funny. It was horrific. It was gory. And I say that because, we came into that about 2006. We've been watching it literally every year since. Our favorite kind of to start off spooky season, with my partner and, and myself. But, then you're going through IMDb and seeing if these actors really are part of the community and what other projects they have and what they're up to.
Yeah.
And you were kind of hard to find because you were just on Twitter.
Yeah.
And that was interesting because now you're everywhere, which I think is fabulous. The evolution.
Yeah, it's great. I think, and I wish I had like more of a mature answer for that. I think it just has to do with like when you're focused on what. You know what I mean? So like I'll go through like a Twitter phase and I'll go through like time where like I spend a lot of time there. And then I'll go through like right now a bunch of time on Instagram and then go through a bunch of time. And then, and then of course, LinkedIn is more for like, the corporate space. It's not something that like, if you're trying to understand who a person is, LinkedIn is not that place,
No,
That's
it's more like a resume builder and
exactly. Yeah.
and
Industry
such.
trends. Exactly. Yeah. But yeah, anyway, so that's why. And then also, I had a catfish too. So that was kind of a big thing in the late 2000s. Yeah, no joke. In the late 2000s. Yeah, it was really crazy. And I never found, the weird part about that one is I never found out from interacting at all. Is what happened is I ended up getting a drink with someone I knew from like the early 2000s. And then having a beverage with this person, it came to my attention that he basically started crying, and he was like, I've been having conversations with you for like years, and I just put it together that it was someone else pretending to be you, and it was someone who knew me in real life beforehand. It wasn't like a weird,
wow.
Yeah, it was crazy. It was really crazy experience. But that's why, sorry to answer, that's why I think it was important for me to be like, oh, I should probably get on platforms, so when someone searches me on LinkedIn, they're like, oh, this is actually this guy.
It's the real Dylan Fergus, and you've proven that. But so now I'm curious. When I reached out on Twitter years ago, like 2000, mid 2000s, was I really interacting with you, or was it the catfish?
Oh yeah, I mean, no. I think it was a Facebook thing or someone on Facebook, and it was. Yeah, you would have caught it. I think what was so interesting about it is this guy, and I'm worried now, not really worried, but I mean, like, there's a part of me that's like, I wonder if this person kind of did this to any other relationships. It was that this guy knew me, and we were friends before he directed me in something. We were friends beforehand, and then it just in his mind didn't gut check that like this other profile, which was only using like publicity photos or whatever, I don't know, and was reaching out to him. So I think it was just kind of like one of those mistakes. No, if you reached out to me in the 2000s, I think that I was going through, kind of a change in, I was being a 20-year-old, I was being in my late 20s, and so
you were so kind. You were so kind, though. You just like, happy Halloween, like, thanks for watching, like, every year.
Oh, nice. Oh, good, excellent.
So it was like,
I thought you were going to be like, you were such a butthead.
You were such a butthead. All right, the end of the conversation, Scott. Let's cut it from here. No, No, absolutely not.
Exactly.
But I was
Oh,
so surprised. I was, knowing that it was the real you doing the recon,
yeah,
now being in the industry of
yeah,
marketing, PR,
yeah, yeah,
myself. I'm like,
yeah,
this seems like the real guy. Like, let's send an email and see what's up.
yeah, totally. Yeah, yeah, totally. Yeah.
So yeah, how did you get into acting, first of all, years ago? And how did you get the word out about your projects without social media back then?
How I got into acting was, my parents were, all super artsy, my parents were very young. And so they would take me to a lot of things, and they got me kind of involved in the theater and the film world as an audience member as a kid. And then one of the movies that I saw when I was in high school, doing like plays and stuff, one of the movies I saw was Hearts of Darkness, which is the making of Apocalypse Now.
Okay.
And like just Francis Ford Coppola in that movie, I was like, I want to be that guy. I want to like go on adventures, and I want to like, take crazy people into the, crazy artists into the jungle and make things. And so from that, I started studying a little bit about film and all those kind of things. And then I became an actor, to be honest with you, because in high school, I was acting in plays and stuff. And this amazing teacher, I had great teachers in high school, but this amazing teacher named Mrs. Forrester, who now, she changed, she got, her married name is different. But she was like, you need to apply to Carnegie Mellon, and she was like, well, this is the school you should go to. It's a really good acting school, and it's really important. And I was like, I want to go to film school, and I want to do this, and I want to like, live on the beach in Venice Beach, and make 16mm films and stuff. And she was like, no, you should really do this. This is much better. And so
Uh-huh.
I do a bunch of them. I got into Carnegie Mellon, luckily. And it was really her, and my parents were really her, that was like, you should go do this. You might have a
Mhm.
little bit of talent, and you should lead that life. And then from there, it was kind of like, it's what's called a conservatory, but it's classically trained and all that. But it was literally like, being 18-year-old, being kind of stupid and like not knowing the world at all.
Yeah.
I had just these series of really great teachers who basically handed me a career, and I got all my children, I think 3 weeks before I graduated from Carnegie.
Oh
And
my
so, yeah,
gosh.
no joke. It was crazy. I mean, it was a like lucky fluke, and it has to like, there's a long story there about like being cast in a Dennis Hopper movie that Dennis Hopper was not involved in, and like all this crazy stuff. But so it was, I got very lucky. And then, I got all my children 3 weeks before I graduated college. So, which is very rare in this world. So,
Sure. What's more of that backstory? Because now we're curious.
oh, I mean, yeah, I mean, I can totally tell it. So basically, what happened is, I came from, kind of a traditional all American, not, it's not a traditional all American family at all, but like the work ethic is,
Mhm.
so I came from a crazy, fun, wonderful kind of family, but the work ethic was very strong on both sides of my family. And so when I was at Carnegie in my last year, I started trying to work. And so I would audition with like the local casting companies in Pittsburgh where Carnegie Mellon is, and I would just do kind of the thing that, although like now you hear it all over social media and you hear it, but it's like it doesn't really make sense. Which is like, just if you put a little effort in, you go the extra mile, you do the crazy things.
Mhm.
And so I booked a couple of small commercials that are like regional with like, I did this cool commercial for Pennsylvania tourism, and then I did this cool commercial for here. But then whenever like the agent would call, they'd say like, hey, there's this audition, but it's like 100-mile drive from here. And I'm like, I got you, I'll do it, no problem,
Yeah, right. I'm in.
I'm in. And so one day they called, and they were like, hey, there's this audition for this, it was a horror film, it's starring Dennis Hopper, but they're looking for like the lead villain, and they, it was, whatever, a 22-year-old guy. And I
Uh-huh.
was like, yeah, I got it, I got this. So I borrowed my girlfriend's car at the time, and I ditched school, which I definitely shouldn't have done. And
Mhm.
I drove up from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. I think I drove all the way to Detroit. Does that make sense? Like
Wow.
3-4 hours. Does that make sense? Somewhere up there.
Uh-huh.
And it was this, some random couple who was like kind of in the film world a little bit. And but they, and I auditioned for them for their movie in the basement of their house, which is, kind of weird.
Yeah,
And
that's
and
kind
I
of
was kind
strange.
of like, this is weird, but whatever, let's go for it. And I was just cocky and brash enough to be like, yeah, whatever, who cares? And then I did it, and they were lovely people, you know. And I was like, great. And I did this audition, and then like before I drove back to Pittsburgh, like, you know, before I had gotten back to Pittsburgh, they had called the agent, was like, oh, Dylan's great. We'd love to do Dylan for this,
Mhm.
and da 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 and da da, and it really went really well. And the local agent in Pittsburgh was like, this is great. You're getting cast as like the lead villain in a Dennis Hopper movie. And so I did
Mhm.
what any good student would do. I went straight to my teachers, and you know, this wonderful teacher named Don Wadsworth, who was just like a jewel of a human being, and he was a great Shakespeare teacher and stuff. And I said,
Aw.
I think I just got cast in a Dennis Hopper movie. And he did what every great teacher would do. He'd be like, he went, okay, let's do some fact checking and make sure you're not
Uh-huh.
being taken advantage of. Coincidentally, that week there was a real agent from New York City coming to Pittsburgh to talk to all the students. This
Mhm.
guy's name was Mark Redanti. He's a really great agent, wonderful guy. And he came and he gave like the normal talk. He's like, hey, this is what the business is like, and this is what you should do. And just kind of
Show
one
the
of those,
ropes and everything. Yeah, yeah.
exactly, show the ropes, exactly. And try to help everyone out. After that was over, my teacher, Don, pulled me aside. He said, hey, I want you to talk to Mark about this Dennis Hopper thing. And I said, I told him the story. I said, yeah, I drove up to Detroit, or I think it was Detroit. Drove up there, and I had this audition, and and through this other agency, and And then Mark, I forgot what he like exactly who he called, but he was basically like, oh, really? And then he goes, oh, okay, well, you know, I know Dennis's agent, and let me call him, and
Right.
And I said, that's great, that's wonderful. So cut to a couple days later, Mark Danny's back in New York, you know, being a good agent and stuff. And he calls me and he goes, Dylan, I am so sorry. This is not a real project. I know, right? And I was like,
Bummer.
bummer, like the worst. Like, you know, you can tell a young, you know, person, you know, as they're starting their career. And I was just like, oh, thank you so much, man, for figuring it out. I really appreciate you. And he said, yeah, I'm so sorry. And basically what he did is I think he actually called like Dennis Hopper, you know, or Dennis Hopper's, he called someone and was like, hey, are you attached to this thing?
Yeah.
And then he says, what happens a lot, and I think this is really interesting, is he says what happens a lot is that people go to like festivals or other things where you interact a little bit with a big star, right?
Mhm.
And they say something along the lines of, I have this script that's great for you. You know, this script is called, you know, Podcast World or something, you know,
Mhm.
and it's about this and it's about this. And Dennis Hopper goes, yeah, I love that. You should send it to me. Right. And then from there, it kind of, you know, and so, you know, and so long story short, they got a little bit, you know, cart a little bit ahead of the horse, and they used it. And then I think, you know, the interesting part of it is that then what Mark Renanti said to me was, hey, you know, so sorry, but you know, the next time you're in New York City, why don't you come by the office?
Mhm.
And I was like, oh, and I lied. And I said, well, coincidentally, I'm actually going to be there in about a week and a half.
Yeah.
Total nonsense. And so he was like, yeah, you should come by. So then I ditched school again on a Thursday and hopped out. I borrowed my girlfriend's car again. And I drove to New York City, and I, you know, had an uncle who lived there, crashed on his couch, and, you know, met with Mark. And then on that very day, he said, you know, I went by his office. He was just being nice. Oh, this is an office of an agent, stuff like that.
Mhm.
And then he said, hey, do you want to meet someone? And I was like, yes. He goes, yeah, I'm going to send you up to meet this woman, Judy Bly Wilson, who's the casting director for All My Children. And I was like, well, that's very nice of you. And he did it right in front of me. He called Judy and he said, hey, Judy, you know, I have this kid from Carnegie Mellon. He's graduating this year. You should
Yeah.
just meet him. He's here today. And she's like, yeah, send him up. So I went from his office in Midtown up to 66th and 10th, I think it was. And I met her that same day. And she goes, nice to meet you. She goes, you know, we're about to do this new role. We haven't released the breakdown yet, but it's for this role, Tim Dillon, and it's going to be starting right around the time you're graduating. She goes, are you going to be here on Monday? And I lied, and I said,
You're like,
yeah,
yeah,
I'm
of course
totally
I
going to be
am.
here. Absolutely. Yeah. And then I she said, and then she gave me some sides for a different character that had nothing to do with that, and some of the script, you know. And she said, well, memorize this and come back on Monday and audition for me. I said, great. Spent the weekend with my uncle memorizing, went back on Monday and did the audition for her on tape. And then she was like, This is wonderful. Great. Really nice to meet you. Da, da, da. And I thought nothing of it. I went back to Carnegie, got in a little bit of trouble for missing a couple of days of school. And then about a week later, they said, hey, what do you think about 4 years on All My Children?
Drop the mic. That's it. That's your career has begun.
Yeah. And then it's funny because then I didn't do 4 years. I did only 3 months, and I didn't sign the contract to do the 4 years. And that's one of my big career regrets.
Interesting.
Actually, they were such lovely people. It was such a cool cast. But for some reason in my mind, I wanted to move to LA. And I was like, I want to move to LA. Yeah. So that's how
you're young, you want to explore other options. And we've all been there.
Yeah. It's crazy.
So, but you got your big start on that show, which is still an accomplishment. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it really does speak to, like, for anyone who wants to do stuff like that, or anyone who wants to do anything crazy and that's hard. It's just be lucky. Better lucky than good.
Sure.
I think, and then anytime I tell people, when I do filmmaking stuff, producing stuff, and I meet people who want to be in the business, the thing I say to them is, like, it's really, you have to go to every party. You have to go to everything. Anytime someone's like, hey, swing by, you have to swing by. You have to, really do those things.
You have to put the work in. Yeah. And the time.
Put the work in. But you also just have to you just have to be physically and emotionally available. I think that's.
And that was even before social media too. You have to go physically.
All before social media. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no, please. You.
No, go. I'm like all ears. I'm just like, yes.
Oh, yeah. And then, no, I think what I was going to say is just like, and that's like, I think it speaks a little bit to this was the social media mindset too, which is like, you can just do it. What's that great, it's not a meme. It's like a video or something where the guy's like, it's this crazy looking guy. And he's like, you can just make stuff, you can just go out there and do stuff. Like, I love that meme. Yeah. So,
but that's a big part of social media too, is you are in control of how you're perceived, or you can be in control.
Yeah. I mean, you are in control of what you put out there.
Correct.
Yeah. I don't know if you can be ever in control of how you're perceived, but you can definitely control what you put out there. Yeah.
And how you want your persona, how you would like your persona to be perceived through your content. How many times you share what you share on your projects. Are you getting the word out about everything else?
Yeah.
So, exactly. But then, so after your 3 months, and then you went to LA, was the next thing Hellbent?
No, I did the very next thing was a rude awakening about, where my talent level was. Like, I think, as you would imagine, being 22 and going directly from school into a real job, you're kind of, you're not full of yourself, but definitely I had some confidence. And then you go to LA, and then it's like, oh man, like, I'm a fine actor. I'm as good as a majority of people. Some people are so good that they are literally incandescent, where you work with them or you see them and it's like they're glowing from the inside out. And I think that once you work with those people, then you then your mindset changes a little bit to like, oh, I'm no longer like, I'm not really the protagonist of talent in the world. I'm just another dude out there, and so I think that I got that in LA. So I did it. And what happened was, what that means in reality is, like, I did a bunch of guest stars, and then I did a billion auditions. I auditioned for everything, every, role, every character. I auditioned for Superman. I auditioned for all the Entourage guys. I auditioned for all those characters. And, and I got some fun parts, without a doubt. I did a couple of movies. I did a bunch of guest stars. And then, and then it was just like, really being like, oh, I'm just another working actor, And the difference was that I was super lucky to have gotten All My Children, gotten agents, had a little bit of cash in my pocket, so that I didn't have to, like, spend 40 hours a week trying to feed myself,
Sure.
So that then when things like Hellbent came along, or when things like a guest star came along, and I was still doing a lot of theater at that time, where I would do, like, I did something with the LA Second City Theater out there. And then I would do all these theater things, all these, super low budget things, and all these kind of art projects. and stuff like that. But yeah, it's just a nature of being lucky, really, is what it is.
But again, you're absolutely talented. So you had that going for you, and even more so now. But
Well,
now
I
you're on
appreciate
social
you. Thank
media.
you. Yeah, that's wonderful to hear. I wasn't
Of
fishing for that,
course.
but I'll take it. I'll take it.
You got
But
it.
no, I mean, like, I think that, like, there's definitely a level of, and at that, and coming out of Carnegie specifically, you have a level of craft. You have a little
Sure.
bit of talent, you're going to do pretty good.
Sure.
You need a lot of luck, you need a little bit of talent, and a fair amount of craft, and you're going to do really good in this business. Almost anyone can do it, without a doubt.
Sure.
I think that the difference is that, there are some people who are so wildly talented. There's like, it's easy to make fun of, I don't know, Brad Pitt or something like that, or Tom Cruise, or, all these people. But then, you get in a room with anyone like that, and then it's just like, geez, it's wow. It's a different level of a thing. There's a reason why those people are those people. Or Matt Bomer. I went to college with Matt Bomer.
Oh,
Matt
wow.
Bomer,
Okay.
lovely human being, wildly
That's
talented.
nice to hear. Right.
Yeah, really lovely human being, wildly talented individual, great actor. He always was, and he has a singing voice of an angel, without a doubt.
Wow.
Yeah, no, without
I'm
a
not
doubt. And
surprised, but that makes sense.
yeah, and so, like, so when Bomer would do stuff, everyone would just be like, it's just, he's incandescent. The guy glows from the inside out.
Sure.
And and I think that that's the difference. And then when you get to the big cities like New York and LA, and you're out there working with the best of the best, you kind of fall into line a little bit. Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. When you finally got Hellbent,
Huh.
how did you prepare for that role? I mean, was it a thing? And as you had alluded to a little bit before when we started this conversation, but were you advised not to try out for that queer horror film, or you said the hell
Well,
with it? I'm young. I'm going to see what happens.
no, I think not for any reason to do with the sexual orientation of the character. You know what I mean? Like,
Sure.
more for like the question of like, how it worked back then, especially, and now I think a little bit too, is an agent wants you to be available. They want you to be available so that when the big paying jobs come along, you're available to do those jobs, right?
Sure.
So I think the only pushback, I think it definitely comes up that, like, oh, the character is a gay character. But for me, and I think that it speaks to like the level of privilege that I kind of had being who I am, and and stuff like that, and which is like, I know for a fact that gay actors were not going to do it, because they were worried about getting pigeonholed. You know what I mean?
Correct.
Like, I
Especially
know
back then.
100%. I know that for a fact back
Right.
then. And my, I think it was my manager, not my agent, but someone said something like that. Say like, oh, you'll have a good shot at this because all the gay actors won't be able to take it.
Not going to
And
touch
it was
that.
just
Right.
something that they said, something like that. They said, and so that's a shame, without a doubt. But for me at the time, I was like, yeah, I'd love to make a movie, like star in a movie. I'm in. And also, it was produced by Stephen Wolf, who produced, he ended up producing later 500 Days of Summer. He produced the original Twin Falls, Idaho, the only Twin Falls, Idaho. And
Sure.
he's produced so many things. And then it was this great, young director, and the team around it was just so great. And so, for me, it was like a home run. So the only, so sorry, I didn't really answer your question. The answer was, I advised not to do it. I was advised not to do it because it was not a full budget movie, and it would take me away from doing lucrative things like testing for TV shows, or doing guest stars in TV shows and stuff like that.
Right.
So the pull away from it was not because of that reason, but for money.
But how did the word get out? I mean, this was 20 years ago at this point, right? So how did the word get out? I mean, not really social media. Maybe there was kind of Facebook, but really just on college campuses. There wasn't really Twitter yet. Did the team just,
after it was made?
Yeah.
So back then,
like word of mouth, I guess.
Yeah, there was the circuit, and we had a blast doing it, right? So oh man, I should have looked this. I should have prepared where it was. I think the opening weekend, I could be getting this wrong. Excuse my language. I could be getting this wrong. I think the opening weekend was at Pride in San Francisco. on
Fun.
Castro Street in the Castro Theater. And then the producers rented out what I think was a Crunch at the time, Crunch Fitness or something like that.
Yeah,
They
yeah.
had this giant party right next to the so at the Castro Theater in San Francisco, it's on Castro, just south of Market, and then you would come out of the theater and walk around the corner, and that's where the gym was, coincidentally. And so they rented out this giant gym. We had a huge party there, but it was during Pride. It was pretty much, I think it was during Pride. I could be wrong.
I wish I was there, or can go back in time and
It was
go to this party
awesome.
and cover it.
Yeah, it was awesome. And then I'm from San Francisco, so my whole family was there. It was like
That's
so
nice.
cool. Yeah,
Wow.
it was so cool. And then we did it in LA at Outfest, I think. And I'm looking over there because I think I have the program sitting there somewhere. Like all my little memorabilia is over there in the corner.
Amazing.
And then and so we did that, and then it played at Outfest. I played it. Was the Hollywood Bowl? Not the Bowl, but what's the other one? The theater in Hollywood, in like the hills right there. But an outdoor theater, if I remember correctly.
Okay.
And then it played. So basically, we spent like months going around the world, and then I went to Cardiff. We went to Wales and did the festivals there, which was a blast. They're amazing. And so that's how it was. But back then it was like with films, there was a circuit that you would do, and it was based on the different type of film that you would have. You do different type of circuit, and then people would go around. And then it was in the then the magazines. It was in I think Frontiers was the LA one. I was on the cover. That was awesome.
Amazing.
And then there was a great spread inside of I think Out magazine. So it was all traditional stuff like that. Yeah.
And I'm sure they ate that up because it was all guerrilla marketing. It was all in person. No
great.
Zoom, no social media.
None of that. Yeah.
None of that.
I think that's the future too, by the way. The more kind of guerrilla stuff. Well, we'll see. Who knows?
Well, but you have a point because the trajectory is everything's going to be recycled back to how it used to be. Because we've hit this glass ceiling in a sense. And we're all reverting back, I think, in all the industries back to how it used to be because it was so effective. We didn't have any other choice.
Yeah, exactly.
Back then. Yeah. Do you have a little bit of a just put you on the spot, a little bit of a surprise for us that maybe something behind you can share?
Oh, I do. Wait, hold on.
Yeah.
Wait. Not to put me. Yeah. So I keep. Yeah, here it is. I keep, I keep back here, I have the original scripts from all my children and stuff. I don't know if you can see that.
Amazing. Wow. You're not joking. Wow.
Yeah. And so I keep, I'm into memorabilia, as you can see. This is, what's this? Oh, this is another film I did. And then right here, and I don't know why I have it like this. I'm sure you're enjoying the shot of the back of my head.
Absolutely. No, you're good.
So this is how scripts used to come, when from your agent. My agent at the time was Innovative. But I actually, for some reason, have I'm going to put my finger over my old address. Not that it matters.
Yeah.
I have this is the original envelope that it came in.
Thriller project.
My really horrible writing on it. And then up here, when everything used to be by messenger, bike messenger in New York or car messenger in LA. And at the time when it first came out, so this is how your scripts would arrive at your thing. I wrote Thriller on it, but at the time it was called the Untitled Thriller Project.
Amazing.
And I haven't opened this thing in a while.
Well, you're seeing it here first, folks.
Exactly. Yeah. And then, oh, interesting. Yeah, and then so from the production company, Steve Wolf's production company is called Sneak Preview Entertainment, and then they would put their cover. So how agents would put whatever I just showed you. Agents would put their cover, agencies put their cover on the scripts before they give it to you, and then the production company puts their cover on the script. This is from
so fancy. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then it would be just the script, and then on here, this is draft 6. From October 14th, 2002.
Oh, I have chills.
And this is how cheesy of a young dude I was. I was this time I would have been 22 years old. And I wrote, So yeah, I'm sure you know the character has one glass eye, and I wrote on the
Yes.
top like the little secret, the key to the character. Before he lost his eye, he shot right-handed. Now he has to switch to left.
Ooh.
Such a young dude. And then yeah, and then so this is the whole thing, and then first one, scene one, exterior club night, warehouse after hours club. Its entrance is guarded by a pair of jack-o'-lanterns. The doors swing open, spilling flashing lights and throbbing music out into the streets. Yeah. Great. Well, that's
What a
it.
film. I don't know. It just rings. It's so perfect for spooky season. It has all kinds of characters in it, all kinds of representation, which back then especially was so important. And
Yeah.
it is even more so today. So thank you for sharing that with us.
Here's oh yeah, here you go.
Yeah.
This is awesome. Now I was like, you can edit all this out. This is my nudity writer to the project.
Interesting.
I wasn't nude in.
You were not. No. I mean, you lost your shirt and your socks. That's it.
I think that no. Oh, okay. This is the kind of stuff that they send, which I guess this is good because and of course it was faxed. You can see it was faxed. This is the kind of stuff that like to protect people and stuff like that. The producer agrees that no such scene shall. This is a tongue twister. Producer agrees that no such scene shall show the artist's penis. All right, great.
Wow.
That's
right
true.
out there, huh? That's
No
it.
such scene. Yeah, there you go. And then yeah, oh, this is why it's all because a bunch of scenes are pulled out. Yeah, there you have it.
So was version 6 the final version, or were there more before you guys went to production and everything else?
I imagine that was the final version. Probably
Amazing.
why I kept it, to be honest with you. But it changed, and then it also had the different color. In they still do this, but as the after they start production, if they change any writing, it goes to a different color paper, and that's why I think all these pages are
Okay.
They changed a bunch of stuff as it went along.
I love that. I can speak with you for hours about everything else. The marketing, social media, the history, everything. Yeah. One more question for you before we wrap up and to give you the floor. Somebody starting off in the industry.
Yeah.
Queer, straight, whatever, somewhere in between. What piece of advice would you give them before breaking into the industry and then immediately getting on social media? What would your advice be to them?
I think I it's funny because every once in a while in the advertising world, I have this thing where like people, will send like their recent graduate friend, nephew, kid, whatever to talk to me. And I think the thing I said to you before is super true. Go to everything. Go to every party, man. Like hang out, just be nice. Don't drink too much. Just like be a good person, It's not that you have to make friends. It's not that you have to network or anything. It's just you have to, be front of mind when people start thinking of stuff. If right now, if someone said to me like, hey, we're going to do this new show. Do you know anyone who's really good at interviewing? Because you and I just did this thing, right? Suddenly I'd be like, oh, Joe gave a great interview. He made me feel comfortable. He did this, he did this, he did this. And then that's how you get recommended for things, So I think that so be front of mind is the thing. So go to everything, go to every party, go to every brunch, go to everything. And then the second thing is, don't lie about what you want to do. Just tell everyone what you want to do.
Be transparent.
As silly as it may seem, if you want to be an actor or you want to be a YouTuber or you want to be a director or a cinematographer or whatever, just tell everybody which one you want. So if you wanted to be an actor, you just tell everyone, I'm an actor. I'm going to be an actor. Someone says like, well, how do you make your money? You say, well, yeah, I wait tables. Who cares? Or I work at this, production company, or I do this. It doesn't matter. But you're like, I'm an actor. That's what I do. And the reason why is because you have to help people categorize in their mind how to think of you, so that, for that same reason, right? So that, if someone's going to be who's a great interviewer, if someone goes, I need some actors. Do you know any good actors? Or you talk to an agent, it's like, oh, we're looking for new actors, but we don't like to pull from the submission stuff. So I would say that if you're starting out at any age, any background, anything, just tell everybody what you want and don't confuse them. don't say, oh, I'm an actor, but I'm also kind of into like, you know, I'm into directing a little bit, and I'm kind of into still photography, and I really like, you know, mixed media, and I really like to just pick one and just tell the whole world, tell everybody that.
And run with that.
Yeah, that's it.
Beautiful.
And then go to everything you're invited to.
And that's that. Drop the mic. That's that.
Yeah, exactly.
Dylan, thank you. Thank you so much again for everything, for your time, for your messages.
Of course.
If we can please tell everybody where we can find you on all the socials or any websites.
Please do. Totally. I mean, DylanFergus.com is the one that has just the links to all those kind of things. And then, you know, my Instagram is public, you know, come hang out on Instagram, especially if you like to see pictures of my kid. And then, and then the only other thing that we have going on is I'm making a show right now with a new soap opera with the great Tug Rice, who's an illustrator, an actor, and an amazing writer. And you'll be able to find out about that. It's probably not going to come out for a little while, but we're shooting right now with the likes of Jennifer Bassi from All My Children, Anna Holbrook, who was on As the World Turns, has an Emmy, you know, stuff like that. Sure. And that's at heartnotes.tv. So it'll be online, you know, I'm sure, at all the platforms soon. But if you want to get an advance on that, go to heartnotes.tv. I'll put up a little page or something so people can put their emails in and get updated notifications.
Perfect. Yeah. Perfect. Dylan, thank you so much for everything. Happy Halloween.
Thank you. Happy Halloween.
And everybody out there in TV land and La La Land and social media land, thank you so much for tuning in. This is another episode of the Pride and Promotion Podcast. Go forth with pride, and we'll talk soon. Take care. That's a wrap for today's episode of Pride and Promotion. We hope you're leaving with fresh insights and inspiration on how to harness the power of diversity and innovation in your marketing strategies. Don't forget to subscribe and stay tuned for our next episode, where we've got more exciting topics and expert guests lined up just for you. Until then, I'm Joe Federico. You can find me at www.jfedericomarketing.com, and I want to help you go forth with pride and make your mark in the world of marketing.